Thank you to the tokens, the 1961 classic, the year that Grace Covenant Church was born. Thanks so much for being here. So we're going to get started with an icebreaker. And you are going to need to be able to go down to your reaction buttons. Do you see the little smiley face with the plus sign? Wherever all of your tools are lined up, there's a little smiley face with a plus sign. And what you will do is there's one that is raise your hand. And so you are going to raise your hand as soon as you have an answer to this. And Bethany is going to be helping me monitor who raises their hand first. Chris, you can't cheat. Chris Hagberg, put your hand down. You don't know what the question is yet. There's always one in every crowd, isn't there? The pink hair lady. But I'm going to ask you a question. And if you are the first person who raises their hand and has the correct answer, we'll unmute your mic so you can tell us. Then you will be the winner of that. We don't have any prizes. We're just playing for fun, people. Okay, just for fun. So here, what we're going to do is, the question is, how do you spell and define blank? So I'm going to give you a word, and you need to be able to correctly spell it. And you also need to be able to give a brief definition. No cheating, no Googling, no search engines of any kind. And again, the first person to raise their virtual hand,
You're faster than me. You want to do this?
Watch it. Then you will be able to share your answer with us. All right. So has everybody found how you raise your virtual hand? Thumbs up. Yeah, we've been doing this online stuff for so long. Everyone's like, yep, we're good. We're good. All right. You guys are awesome. So can you spell it and define it? Number one, Ebenezer. Ebenezer, got to raise your virtual hand up. Which one, Bethany?
I think it was Chris.
Did she still have it up there from the last time?
No,
No.
I
Okay,
saw it appear.
Chris Hagberg, spell and define Ebenezer.
Ebenezer, E-B-E-N-E-Z-E-R. Ebenezer is the first name of Mr. Scrooge. Actually, it's also something that you raise. Here I raise my Ebenezer.
Good, like a memorial stone or a reminder of something. Thank you, Chris. Everybody give Chris an applause. Yay, Chris. All right, put your hands down if you still got your hands raised, because here comes the next one. The next one is, this is harder. Mephibosheth. Spell and define Mephibosheth.
C.
Oh, I think I know who it is, yeah.
Actually, it's Patricia. There is no way I would ever be able to do this. So Patty will do it.
Patty Mueller.
Okay. M-E-P-H-I-B-O. It's Mephibosheth? S-H-E-T-H. And that would be the, crud. Whose son? Dang, whose son is it? Who fell when the nurse was running out of the palace with him, fell, and he ended up lame in both feet. And dang, if I can remember whose son he was. Saul's son.
How about
David's son?
Close to Saul's.
Jonathan's son. Saul's son.
But Saul's
son. He was leaving the palace. The nurse dropped him. He was crippled in both feet, and David took pity on him.
Yes, and it was Jonathan's son.
Jonathan's son.
Who is Saul's grandson. And that's why David invites him into his table. So nice work, Patty Mueller on Mephibosheth. All right, the next one. You ready to get your fingers on your buzzers? The next one is Galilee. Who can spell Galilee?
Rollins.
Okay, Galilee. We refer to it in some translations as the Sea of Galilee. There is also the Lake of Galilee, and it's also a region of Palestine.
Excellent, excellent. Good job, Rollins. All right, this one is hard, a little bit harder. So get your thinking caps on. Number 4. Who can spell and define Nebuchadnezzar? Nebuchadnezzar.
Mueller's again.
Woo!
Nebuchadnezzar is NEB. Oh gosh, how come I can't see my Nebu? UCH. Cadnezzar? ADNEZZAR.
Wow! Nice work. Who is Nebuchadnezzar?
He was one of the evil kings. King Nebi built the giant golden statue, bow down to me, and threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the
Now her
burning
veggie
fiery
tunes.
furnace. And really, I'm singing a VeggieTales song in my head to get the story right, because this is how VeggieTales has ruined my life.
Patty, sing the VeggieTales song for us.
Which one? All I can think is the bunny song. The bunny, yeah, I ate the bunny. But that's not the right song. What's the, I don't know.
I don't know. That's all right. You got Nebuchadnezzar correct. A funny story, when I was in high school, graduating from high school, we had a church service, like a baccalaureate when you graduate from high school. And I had to read the scripture that day. And the scripture that the pastor preached on was that text from Nebuchadnezzar the king and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which you have to say about 100 times. In a story about the fiery furnace and being thrown into the fiery furnace when you were graduating from high school was not necessarily the text that anyone was looking for this man to preach on. And it went in a way that wasn't helpful. I'll just put it that way. So we were told not to get too hot. Anyway, here's the last one. Number 5, spell and define grace.
I think the Dawsons, is that?
All right, the Dawsons. Can you unmute for us?
Grace. Grace.
And your definition?
And well, some people say God's riches at, Christ's expense. It's something we don't deserve, but we get it
Awesome.
anyway.
Excellent. Does anyone else have a different way they want to define grace?
Everybody on
Washington.
the screen.
What day? What, Steve?
Everybody on the screen.
Everybody on the screen. Here we are. This is
The-
grace.
The Washingtons have their hand raised.
Washington's.
Where are they?
There you are, right in the middle.
It's unmerited favor, mercy, and it's also the place that we've called our church home since '96.
Nice. Yay, grace. So the reason that we spelled a few of these strange biblical names is because the story goes that when the two congregations came together to form Grace Covenant Church, and we're going to learn about those two churches here in a minute, the leaders of the church were sitting around a room with a chalkboard, and they were trying to decide what to name the church. And one story goes that the word that they were trying to put on the board was Ebenezer, and the other story says it was Galilee, but no one knew how to spell whichever word they wanted to consider for naming the church. And so they settled on Grace, which I think we all can be very grateful for, right? Yeah. It's so that I just like that story. And I spoke with Pastor Deb earlier this week, who is my predecessor, if you don't know. And that was one of the stories that she recalled as well, was that funny story. And they must have not, maybe they weren't reading in those days. Were you reading if you were born in 61 or living in, no, I'm just kidding. Yes, you were reading when you were in 61. So awesome. Awesome. I'm loving the stuff in the chat. So is Ebenezer in the Bible? It is. Yeah, it is. Very fun word. So anyway, just want to say Ebenezer. Glad you're not a Scrooge. All right. We are going to introduce our next game. And this is a game that you are actually going to be able to play off and on throughout the afternoon. And then we'll have the big reveal at the end. And this is the Guess Who game. The Guess Who game from the 56 of you who sent in baby pictures. Russer has put together a page for us with all of the pictures, all in black and white. And then all of the names are on the same spot. Nice wig, Dale Reed. I just saw that. All of the names are listed there of the people's pictures. And if you take your pen and your paper and just number 1 through 56 and start putting down the names of who you think are in the baby pictures. And Bethany has just shared the link to that web page. And so you can go to your chat and you can, sorry, my sound just changed on my computer. You can go into your chat and click on that link, and you should be seeing adorable baby pictures of many of you, and you should be able to scroll and see the names. Is everybody finding that okay? The link is in the chat. And once people can find it and open it up, maybe minimize it on your side, you can kind of play off and on as we go along here. But go ahead and look in to see if you can find that. Is everyone finding the baby pictures? You can see them? All right, good. All right, well, go ahead and just peruse those for a couple of minutes. You might want to go ahead and start jotting down some names of who's who in these baby pictures. And again, you can do that throughout our gathering here. And at the very end, we'll come back and see who's who and see how many of you all got the correct one. So go ahead and take a second and look at those pictures while I get ready to share something else with you.
I have to say, I'm loving looking at everybody's faces while they look at the baby pictures. You can tell who's scrolling. They're pretty delightful.
I love it. It is. It's so fun to look at them. And when you see one, it like clicks for you. So thank you, Russer, for putting this together for us. Couldn't have done it without you. So, and this idea of this game came from Mary Jane Dawson and their Mission Friend group, of which the Saldanias are part of, took the lead on this. So thank you, Mission Friend group, for helping us lead some fun fellowship time together here today. So I'm grateful. All right, as you guys keep doing that, we've got another fun little game that is going to be real quick, and I can't wait to see who can do this. And that game is that I want to know who can pronounce the Swedish names of the congregations that formed Grace. And actually, even it's just kind of one, and then it's the two neighborhoods. So let me put it up here and see if you can see it. Nope. Hold on. I got it here. Here we go. All right. So this is these are the names of the two congregations, originally in Swedish. And so what I'm looking for is someone who can pronounce that Swedish. And you can raise your hand and Bethany will call on you.
Patty. Pete.
This one's me this time. So, Svenska Evangeliska Missionsförsamlingen.
Samlingen.
Samlingen.
Församlingen.
Do it again. Say it again.
Svenska.
Svenska Evangeliska
Missionsförsamlingen.
Missionsförsamlingen.
No, Församlingen.
RS. Församling.
It depends which region you're in.
If you're on the Stockholm side, it's Församlingen.
If you're in Skåne, it's more like Missionsförsamlingen.
The Mueller family gets up at only God's hour on Christmas morning and actually goes to a Christmas Day service that they still hold at North Park Covenant Church, just across in the neighborhood from North Park. What's it called what is it called, you guys, that you go to?
You just broke up. I didn't hear you.
Oh, what was the name of the service that you go to?
Ooh.
On Christmas? Yeah, Mueller's, Pete.
I don't have any reception.
Oh, that's all right. But nonetheless, no wonder they can pronounce this, because they actually go and worship once a year in Swedish. So yay. Muellers are on fire, y'all. We're gonna have to get some more of us to connect here. Keep looking at your baby pictures, and I'm going to get ready to introduce you a brief, well, it's about an 11-minute video that is a little bit about the history of this great congregation that we have the privilege of participating in today. We certainly know that we stand on the shoulders of a lot of people and the saints that have gone before us, and we're so grateful for that. And so enjoy this brief video. Grace Evangelical Covenant Church was birthed out of a union of two historic Swedish Evangelical Mission Covenant churches. Established in 1892, Maplewood Covenant Church served the growing Swedish immigrants in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, at North Towman and Logan Boulevard. The congregation worshiped in Swedish until 1929. A few short years later, another church was born to serve a similar community, only this time in Irving Park, on December 10th, 1899. The first building of the church, built at a cost of $875, actually still exists as a converted house. The second building then moved to the current church location at the corner of Monticello and Berteau. As the Irving Park congregation grew, so did its building. And on June 30th, 1912, the Irving Park Covenant Church dedicated a larger church building. Note that the footprint of this building is the same as it is today. The current church was built on this church's foundation. However, the third church building was larger than the current church, and the sanctuary seated 450 people. Around 1935, Irving Park Covenant switched from Swedish to English as the neighborhood around it changed. Tragically, on January 28, 1940, that building was destroyed by a church fire, leaving only the exterior brick walls. The blaze destroyed everything inside, including a $7,000 three-year-old pipe organ. Note the similarities of the painting above the chancel to the current stained glass image in front of the sanctuary today. The congregation's current building would quickly grow from these ashes. On November 10, 1940, just 9 months after the fire, and with the support of the neighborhood, the new Irving Park building opened, complete with new stained glass and pipe organ. This was followed by the height of the Irving Park Church, led for 16 years by Pastor C.A. Gabbert. For 2 decades after the fire, separate ministries continued in mission in Logan Square and Irving Park. But prompted by large Swedish populations moving to the suburbs during what now is known as white flight, both congregations began to decline. Maplewood was especially concerned about the plans for the building of a new highway and train line that would cut right through their neighborhood. These projects came to be known as the Kennedy and the CTA Blue Line. So, in 1959, the two churches began to discuss a merger. And on January 15, 1961, the two churches became one, with the goal of making ministry felt not only in the homes of church members and friends, but also in the community. Grace Evangelical Covenant Church was born, and the mission and ministry of the church continued. Much of the furniture for the newly formed congregation came from the Maplewood Church, while the new congregation chose to make its home in the more modern Irving Park building. The Grace Pace newsletter served early Grace attendees much like the website and Grace News do today. This 1961 edition celebrates the official winners of an attendance contest. Reportedly, upon learning of her victory, member Judy Nelson cooed, "Oh, catch me before I faint." Along with fun and friendly competition, ministry to children has always been a value of the church, as Denise Hopp's Sunday School certificate shows. It is signed by her Sunday School teacher, Nina Larson, the namesake of the ministry house. National and international mission work and the leadership development of women in ministry are also both important to the identity of Grace. In 1963, the church commissioned Janice Burse to radio missionary work for Trans World Radio, where she served until her retirement. Grace was emerging out of the two historic congregations, but it wasn't an easy transition. Reverend Alan Wilderquist, pastor at Grace from 1965 to 70, wrote that the merger was still very fresh at the time that he was there, and so were the debates, often about which set of dishes would be used at church dinners, or which communion table would be used at the Lord's Supper. Nevertheless, Wilderquist reports the church had a fine spirit, and he had fond memories of his time there. That spirit continued to carry Grace forward, but the seismic shifts of the 60s and 70s proved a challenge for the new congregation. And in 1982, a strategic study raises the question of whether to close the church. The faithful few were becoming fewer, and by 1985, the average attendance was just 39 on a Sunday morning. So the church began the hard work of rethinking their identity. And in 1986, after decades of part-time and interim pastors, the small congregation made the bold investment to hire young full-time pastors. Stuart and Holly McCoy received a call to lead the church, and longtime lay leaders gave them the space to lead. Reaching into their connections at North Park College and Seminary, transitioning the church from traditional to contemporary style, and desiring to serve the growing Hispanic population in the neighborhood were all hallmarks of the McCoys' ministry. In 4 years, the church attendance jumped from 39 to 135. One of the most significant partnerships that began during this decade of ministry was with Luis and Floretta Ma. Within 18 months of its inception as a Spanish-language Bible study nurtured by Jerry and Nancy Reed, Iglesia del Pacto Grace was formed in 1992 and continues to minister to the surrounding Latinx community. In the late 1990s, Grace called its first full-time female pastor, Deb Gustafson. Healing prayer was a hallmark of Pastor Deb's ministry, along with spirit-filled worship. In a letter to the church, Pastor Deb wrote that she found Grace Covenant to always be full of grace and mercy to all ages, and to her as a pastor. Children were involved in Sunday worship and serving in many ways, and it was a place of welcome and love. In the early 2000s, attendance at the church peaked around 200. The church went to 2 services for a brief time and sought, unsuccessfully, to buy a new building. During Pastor Deb's pastorate, the church adopted a new logo based on the one from her home church, a Covenant church in Washington, but representing the growing diversity of Grace. Historically Swedish, primarily Anglo, newly Hispanic, and soon to be African. A new ministry to Sudanese refugees began. In partnership with World Relief, a small project grew quickly to include resettling and helping to educate more than a dozen young men known as the Lost Boys. Over time, the church not only welcomed these young men into the community, but also welcomed their wives and growing families. Simultaneously, the Ministry of Justice with Grace wrote a resolution that made it all the way to the floor of the denomination's 122nd annual meeting, resolving that the Evangelical Covenant Church divest from Sudan's government due to the genocide in Darfur. The resolution encouraged its members to do the same. In 2007, the church hired 2 full-time pastors for the first time. Pastor Mandy Olson and Pastor Ryan Johnson continued welcoming refugees, this time members of the Karen community from Burma. The church also began a regular practice of self-assessment to inform decision-making, started a tutoring ministry, and continued hosting Senior Share. During Pastor Ryan's ministry at Grace, the church recommitted its ministry to youth, continuing to confirm students in the faith, reintroducing weekly church youth group gatherings, and attending retreats at Covenant camps. The church also re-engaged in issues of justice, most notably by co-hosting the first bilingual invitation to racial righteousness with Iglesia del Pacto Grace. After a few short years, Pastor Ryan was called to co-pastor a church with his wife out east. Pastor Mandy continued at Grace, shepherding the church through significant personal, formational, and institutional change, rooting ministry in healthy teams, and developing life-giving partnerships. One of those partnerships includes Fed with Grace, a neighborhood food pantry that the church opened in 2012 to serve the West Walker neighborhood. The church also continued to support national and international missionaries serving in a variety of ministries and contexts. Grace has a global connection. It's important to remember Grace as it was, but in the words of Reverend John Peterson, Grace's pastor, a few short years in the mid-70s, on the occasion of the church's 15th anniversary, he wrote, "It's awfully easy to look at the glories of the past and forget about the potential of the present. Let's focus our attention on the way God will use our church in the future." And so we continue, celebrating our past, seeking to make our ministry felt in the community as well as in the homes of members and friends, and faithfully awaiting our future as an intentional gathering of unfinished people, seeking and sharing Jesus' transforming love. What will the next 60 years bring? Only God knows. You are invited to join him in making it happen. What a gift we have in grace, and just taking a little time to remember all that God has done and is continuing to do in our midst is a real gift and blessing. As I mentioned, I talked to Pastor Deb a few days ago, and she wanted to join us today, but her brother's birthday is today, and they were having an online family celebration at the same time. And so she sent a letter, and I just want to share one brief part of it. She said that on her last Sunday, the congregation, the church coordinated the service. And on the communion table sat 2 large empty vases of water. During one of the songs, children and parents and others came forward and placed a red rose in one vase and a white rose in the other. There were names attached to the stems of each rose, and the red represented the babies that were born during her years at Grace, while the white represented those who had come to know Jesus as Lord and Savior. By the end of the song, there were 2 beautiful vases of red and white roses, a symbol of God's work among us as we served his purpose together. I thought, what a beautiful memory that she had and that she wanted to share with all of us. It is just a gift. It's a gift for me to know her and the ministry that she did, and not only her, but those of the saints that have gone before us. And only a few of them could we picture and include in the video, but they represent so many people who are faithful to the Lord, who established and cared for the church, and who passed the faith down to us. And so for that, we give great thanks. We're going to move into a time of what I have dubbed or am dubbing as 60-second Grace Memories Mixer. We're having a 60-second Grace Memories Mixer. So here's what we're going to do. I'll share this a couple times. We're going to break you up into smaller breakout rooms so that you're with a smaller group of people. You'll probably have anywhere from like 4 to 6 people in each room. And you're going to have 10 minutes, and I will give you a heads up, or Bethany will give you a heads up in terms of the time that you have. You're going to have 10 minutes. And so when you gather initially, you can chat a little bit just to say hey to each other and connect. But then you're going to have the rest of the time to share 1-minute stories of grace, 1-minute stories of memories that you have of the church, be them meaningful, profound, fun, humorous, sentimental, whatever it is. You can just share those stories, but you've got to keep them brief. Then what you're going to do in the last minute or so of your gathering is you're going to vote in your small group on one story, the best story from your group. And that story is we're going to come back into the large group, and that story is going to be shared with the whole group. And so if the person who shared the story initially wants to share it, they can. If they don't want to, someone else can share it on their behalf. When you come back into the large group, we're going to ask you to put the name of the person who's going to share the story and the title or main word of the story, and then we'll call on those folks who are going to share. We're going to then do it again. We're going to remix you up so that you get to hear other stories and connect with other people. We're going to go through the same process where you'll get to share 1-minute stories of grace. Then you'll come back into the large group after you have voted on your favorite story from the second round. And the key will be when we share them with the large group, that none of the stories in the second round can be the same as the stories in the first round. to make us hear more stories in our time together. And
Good.
this will be the kind of the largest chunk of time that we'll spend doing one activity before we come back and check out the baby pictures. So I am going to get ready to send you into some different breakout rooms. I'm just going to mix them randomly. It's going to let me. And you will have 10 minutes. I'll keep an eye on the time. Bethany and I will keep an eye on the time. We'll let you know kind of at the 5-minute mark, and then we'll let you know again about 1 minute before the groups are going to start closing out. So connect, share a story about Grace that's your favorite. Vote on your favorite group story from your group, and then we'll bring you back into the group. All right? Thumbs up. All righty, here we go.
Mandy, did you want me to join a breakout room?
You know what? Go for it. Go
Okay,
for it. Yep. And then I'll keep the time.
all right.
Thank you. All right, as you come back in, go ahead and someone from the group share in the chat the name of the person who's going to be speaking for your group and sharing a story. You just go ahead and pop those in there, and then we will start. We have a practice at council of using a timer because we've realized that if we don't, we'll just keep talking and talking, and we have things or other people that need to speak. And so I'm going to use my timer, and I'll just kind of hold it up here just so you can, you can see it if you're speaking, so that we can make sure that we can hear some others as well. So these are 60-second grace stories. And we are going to start with Mr. Dale Reed, or Dr. Dale Reed. If you can unmute your mic, Dale, and you can start telling us your story.
My daughter Tirza was leading worship one Sunday, which is great because she was in high school and lots of people can get opportunities at Grace. As she was leading worship, she looked over at the opposite side of the sanctuary and saw a woman holding something, a bag or something. And Tirza was playing keyboard and singing and almost stopped in the middle of the song because she saw a bird. She was holding a bird that was like flapping loose up by her head. And she managed to hold it together. And then at the end of the sermon, the woman came up to Pastor Mandy, and she was moving to another place and sort of been kind of homeless or something, and asked that if her bird could be blessed because she couldn't take it with her as a pet. She sort of adopted it as a pigeon. And Mandy, straight face, just blessed the bird, and life went on.
Oh, I do remember that. And that was crazy. God bless her and God love her. And God bless Grace, because y'all didn't even like blink an eye either. You just like urban ministry. What you just like, no one freaked out about the fact that she had a pigeon and sat through the whole service. That was impressive, really, for an untrained bird. So thank you, Dale. That was a very funny day. And after the fact, we were all like, what just happened? What just happened? So, all right, next up is Metzley. Thank you, Dale, for sharing. Metzley Doles.
So I grew up attending Iglesia del Pacto Grace, and we had the tradition of doing Dia del Niño. So not sure how it came to be, but Iglesia de Grace and Grace Covenant Church had that service combined. And so we had a piñata. And once the piñata broke, everyone fends for themselves, gets candy, elbows one another, whatever it is, but you get your candy. Unfortunately, the kids from Grace Covenant Church didn't get to get some candy because they were not aware that you just dive in for your candy. So the following year, as we were planning to have that service combined again, the request from Grace leadership was that the kids from Grace would get a 5-second head start to give them a fighting chance for candy. And the decision was no. So.
Oh my goodness. I love that. That is so funny. And boy, they were like sore losers to have it at 5-second start. Come on, kids, we got this. Very cute. Thank you, Metzley, for sharing that memory. We appreciate it. That was fun. Dora Winchester is next up. Dora, unmute your mic, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, I shared the story about when my sister Diane and I were leading worship on the Sunday where both of my children, and I'm not sure how many of her 4 children, were baptized. And, we had the big trough up on stage, and we were singing, "As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way." And it was just really beautiful to be singing a song that was so great and so appropriate for what was happening and to be seeing my children be baptized, to have made that decision to do that. So there's a special memory at Grace.
That was a great service. I remember that as well as one of the great days in our fellowship together for sure. So, and thank goodness for God's promises that he makes to us on that day of baptism. So that's beautiful. Thank you, Dora. That's a good memory for me too. I also remember you and your sister and your families boiling hot water in the basement and carrying up pans of hot water because we had yet to purchase like this probe that we could put in the water to at least take the worst of the chill off. And so it was out of the hose and trying to get the water a little bit warmer for those who are going to be baptized. So hauling that water up and down the steps. All right, I've got Renee Rushley next. Hey, Renee, please unmute your mic.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, so this is a little bit of a history lesson of Senior Share. So my memory is, so Kurt and I came to Grace in 2002. And a year later, I had been noticing all the seniors in the congregation and that there wasn't anything specific for them, like formationally. And so I went to Pastor Deb and asked her if I could start a group. And so we made a plan. And she suggested I write a letter to each of the seniors. So I did that. And then I was meeting them. I had been meeting them, talking to them. Well, anyway, they weren't biting on this. They weren't like jumping on the bandwagon of having their own group. And so I'll never forget my Wilma Mylander. She came up to me one Sunday and she said, I'm coming to the group. And I was telling her that there was no one else that was like wanting to come. And she said, doesn't matter, I'm coming. I like the idea of it. And so it was just so great. I mean, she led the pack. Everybody followed her after that.
Often it takes that one person and then that one person inviting people, right, to say, come on, let's do this. And that's fun. That's fun. One of my stories of Wilma, and for those of you who don't know, Wilma is Denise Hopp's mom, was that she was in the hospital one time. And so she was in the ER, I went to visit her. And she had a very young doctor. He had to have been fresh out of school. And I was brand new at Grace. So I was a little younger then too. And the doctor and I were standing in there and she said, oh, look at my young care team. And I kind of made a joke and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, Wilma. And she's like, well, you guys have to practice and you might as well practice on me. And I'm like, what a gracious response, like here she's laying in this bed and she's in the hands of especially this young doctor. I mean, I wasn't going to hurt her, but it was very sweet. So thanks for sharing a story, Renee, about Wilma. Let's see, Milton Sewell. Milton, with the fancy hat on. I'm loving the hat, Milton.
Hey, loving the hat. Yeah. Yay. So my story is called The Dancing Tithe. So you gave a sermon of come and give with joy. Bring your tithe and give it with joy. And the most uncommon person, the most stoic person in the church, it was Don Dorman. I can always see him. He's dancing with his tithes, and I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, what? Of all people to be doing something like that, it was him. And he was just dancing and giving with joy. And brother's tied up there. And so now, anytime I need an uplift, I always remember the dancing tithe, Don Dorman and the dancing tithe.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Milton, for that memory. That was, He did. He got his groove on that day. That is a very fun memory. I'm with you on that one. I think the idea to dance up the tithe was Gretchen Denies or Paul's probably. I think Gretchen was like, we need to do this sometime. Yeah, I see that. Nope, that was very fun. So thanks, Milton. And I'm glad that memory still makes you smile. And you should email Don and tell him that, because he would appreciate that still blesses you as well. So all right, and I think that's all the groups. Did I miss? No, Bethany, who am I missing?
James, Hop, and myself.
All right, James and you, go for it. You guys were indecisive.
I'll go if that's all right.
Go for it.
Okay. I want to tell a story about the first time I went to Grace, and that was in 1970. Yes, 51 years ago. I went to high school at Lane Tech, the School of Champions, right, Edmund? Dave Hagen was a friend of mine there, and he said, "Oh, you should come to my church." And I was Catholic, and I thought, I can't walk into a Protestant church because the church will fall on my head. I was really afraid. And he says, we got this youth group. So I went to this youth group, and everybody there treated me like I was one of their own, like I had known them forever. And just to give a little bit of history, Dave Hagen's mom was Emily Hagen, who just passed away a couple years ago at age 100. Dave Erickson was part of the group. Dave Erickson is Shar Nyman's brother. Tom Hansen, many of you will remember him. He was part of the group. Denise's brother, Rick, was part of the group. And of course, Denise was part of the group. But yeah, that was my first time there, and people loved me and accepted me, and it just completely blew me away.
Oh, thank you, James. And the rest, as they say, is history. Is that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's great. And again, an invitation and a welcoming community that welcomes you in as their own is huge in the life of the church. So Bethany, you too?
Yeah, and actually my story kind of goes along with the welcoming too. When I first came to Grace, I was in college, and the school year ended and my friends left and I stayed. So I was sort of at a loss of where exactly I fit in, and friendly, but I didn't quite know where I fit, and I didn't have a real community yet. But Little Tears of Reed, I remember, came and would hold my hand during worship, and it just yeah, made me feel at home and less isolated. So, and I belonged somewhere. So it was beautiful.
Oh, that's the sweetest. I love that. You need to tell her that too if she doesn't know. That's a beautiful, beautiful story. And yeah, the welcoming of people is so huge, and just that simple gesture of a child, right, at the time. I should have been pretty young at the time to do that.
Yeah, I think she was 5 or 6-ish.
Yeah. I remember a story about Bethany and Russer's wedding that I did. And the person who was reading the text read the wrong text. And the text goes on to talk about
it was supposed to be 1 John, but it was John. So it wound up being the story of the woman at the well with 5 husbands.
Right, exactly. And the three of us are standing at the front of of the church, and I'm thinking okay, what do I do with this? That was a very fun. Well, that's one of my favorite wedding memories, Bethany and Rosser. So thank you. Very fun. All right, you ready to do it again? the Hoskins are on. Chris and Jenny, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry we're late.
That's
I
okay.
can't stay long, but we just wanted to pop in and say happy birthday.
Oh, thanks. Great to see you guys. They're in Tennessee right now, recently moved there from Ecuador. And actually, I heard we showed a picture of our team that came down to Ecuador a little bit ago. So it's great seeing you guys. I did notice too in the chat, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Jonathan and Hillary were here for a bit, and they said love from North Africa. So they must be someplace in North Africa right now, I'm assuming, with travels and stuff. So that's what it said. I don't know, but that's my guess. So because I do know that they go there pretty frequently. So anywho, okay, we're going to go back into the breakout rooms again. Same rules. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms. You join the breakout room. You're going to have 10 minutes. I'll give you the timing as it goes. You're going to share 60-second grace stories. At the end of the time of sharing them, you're going to vote on your favorite in your group. And then that story is going to be shared back with the large group. The caveat this time is it cannot be the same stories that we just heard. They have to be a different round of stories. And I think if this works right, you'll be in different groups. So you'll be with different people. So let me see if I can figure that out. I don't want you to all go back to the same rooms. 1 second. Work on your baby pictures. Let me do this way. We're just going to put you in different rooms real quick. So you get to hear some different stories. That's half the fun, right? Let's see. I'm just mixing y'all up. All right, a few of you might still be together, but hopefully.
If you recreate the rooms and just say randomize, does that work?
Let's try it. I also mix them up, so if they for some reason go back to the same ones that are already on there, we'll see. You should be mixed up. Here it goes. Okay, 10 minutes. See you soon. Again, as you come back in, go ahead and put the name of who's going to be sharing. I see a couple have already done that. Thank you. Who's going to share your story? Thank you. Thank you. I'll do the timer again. Hi, Phyllis. I saw that Phyllis joined us. So, hey, Phyllis, welcome. Great to see you. We're going to do one minute again, and it is first going to be Edmund Garcia. Edmund, go ahead and open up your mic.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you guys. I'll do my best. Yes, please hold it up for me, Pastor Man. You know how much I can talk.
I do.
So I wanted to share like one of my greatest moments of when I first started coming to church, and it was so funny that I got to be in a group with James and Denise because I was wearing my Doctor Who scarf. I was still relatively new and I didn't know a lot of people, and then like being in a new church is kind of scary sometimes. And James came up to me and recognized my Doctor Who scarf and asked me if I was a Doctor Who fan. And then we connected through that. And then we found out we both went to Lane Tech, so connected through that. And ever since then, I've always looked forward to coming to church and always looking for James so I can come say hello and give him a hug. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, Edmund. And thank you, James, for welcoming Edmund well and making that connection. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, hey, the next person will be Janice.
Hey, everybody. Happy birthday, Grace.
Hey.
Well, those of you might remember, I used to live in the neighborhood. I used to live right around the corner from Grace on Berteau and Drake. And I started coming to Grace because I had 2 young children and I didn't want to make the trek far to go to church. So anyway, I used to walk my 1-year-old Naomi and 3-year-old Derek to church. And it was not easy. Those of you who know what it's like to shepherd toddlers, to get them to the destination. So I would always say, come on, we got to hurry up. We got to get to God's house. Well, we had a baby dedication for them one Sunday. It was a very special, beautiful service. So afterwards, I invited Pastor Deb to come over for Sunday dinner. Well, the rest of us went ahead and got the preparations made. And I told Derek, he was really hungry. I said, you're going to have to wait till everybody gets here before we start eating. And so he's looking out the window, waiting. And he said, okay, Mom, we can eat now. God's coming. and Pastor Deb was coming down the walk. Yeah, God's here now. And I had never thought that all that time, they really thought when we were going to God's house, that's where she was there to greet us. So
I love it, in Jesus' name, right?
So, but out of the mouths of babes, you know.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it. And I hope she knows that story. I'm guessing she does, but
we had a good laugh when she came in the door. Yes.
That's fantastic.
We cleared it up for Derek too. So
thank you for sharing
without
so
that
sweet.
misunderstanding. Anyway.
That's so sweet. Next up is Mark Washington.
Well, Grace has always had a great way of connecting people together, whether it's MFGs or dinners together, or we used to do retreats of various kinds. And there would sometimes be men's retreats. There were some that were like pretty intense, like spiritual boot camps, but there was one that we were on that it was a lot of fun. We were pretty rowdy. I remember the first night we started out and everybody tied a string and a balloon to their foot, and then you went around the room and tried to smash the other guy's balloons, and we were just having fun, just getting wild. So we were out on the campground that night, and there was a ropes course, obstacle course thing there, and there was like a teeter-totter thing. So before the blink of an eye, I was like, what just happened? So somebody said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we launched somebody off of that? So they chose Ivan Judson, who's this guy about 150 pounds maybe. And then there were 3 other men who were each probably over 200 pounds each. I won't name any of them. And they jumped on the other side of this teeter-totter. And Ivan realized his mistake later, which is he forgot to lock his knees. So he just simply, he didn't go anywhere in the air. He just collapsed. And it turned out he broke his arm. And the first response of one of the guys was, "Nobody tells the wives." But
oh my goodness. I saw a few usual suspects that were around during those days shaking their head and smiling and laughing as they remembered that with you. I'll just leave it at that and invite the next person. Thanks, Mark, for sharing that funny memory. Poor Ivan. Iris Garcia.
Hello. Hold on, I have an echo in here because Edmund refuses to put his headphones on. Hold on. Okay. Mine was the first day that we went to church. We decided that we weren't going to go to the other church that we were at. We were going to start visiting new churches. And we said, hey, we'll start off the beginning of the block since we have a church right there. Our initial thought was, oh no, it's a female pastor, but we're going to go to it anyway. And we went, and it was Palm Sunday. And Julia went to the children's. And when time came, everybody came out, and Julia was a little donkey. And we were like, wow, she's a donkey. And I remember also my son was sitting next to, he was just in between my husband and me. And he turned to me and he said, do you like the church? I said, I don't know yet. Worship wasn't even in the beginning. And then he said, well, I like it. And he turned to Edmund and he said, do you like it? And Edmund said, yes, I like it a lot. He goes, I like it too. So we stayed for two reasons. Number one, Jay was involved quickly and my son liked it. So if my son liked it, we're staying. So yes.
Oh, thank you, Iris, for sharing that. And we are grateful that you guys stayed, for sure. Grateful that you guys stayed. So, and I love that Julia jumped in to be a donkey on the very first Sunday. I mean, that is commitment right there from a young kid, their first time at church. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. I just saw that Dale posted that poor Ivan's wife called him Rocket Man after the teeter-totter episode that Mark just shared. Wow. Okay, we'll move on from that. Ron Rowland, you're up.
Okay. Well, a few years ago, Mark Washington and I started forming a men's group with Steve Brown, Paul Wagarski, and Bill Schmidt. And this was like Memorial Weekend a couple of years ago when we got torrential rain. And then on that Tuesday when we were supposed to get together, we had 2 inches of rain in our basement that we had to get out after just finishing it. And so there was furniture and things like that. So I texted the guys, it's like, I can't make it tonight. And I think it was Steve Brown that started the text flurry. It's like, well, we could just be navel gazing men, considering ourselves, we could come and help you. And so that small group that entire night was helping Annie and I get our basement cleared out of all of our belongings and being able to salvage some stuff. So literally getting a chance to see these guys be the hands and feet of Christ.
Oh, awesome. Way to be the church, friends. That's what we're about. That's what we're talking about. Hashtag be the church. I love it. Thank you, Ron, for sharing. And Phyllis, thanks for being willing to share. What's your story that you have for us?
Hi. Well, mine's kind of as you know, I've come here through Renee and Kurt, and my story has to do with Kurt mostly. I was visiting my mom. They're our backdoor neighbors. They can see our house from their house. And I was visiting my mom, and there was this dresser that was up on the second floor. It's a 2-flat. It was up on the second floor, and I needed to get it down and put it in my van so I could take it home for my son. And I was living in Kansas at the time. So this was even before I knew who Kurt was. So his neighbor Richard and Kurt were standing there, and they were talking to me, and I said, "Can you guys help me?" And Kurt goes, "Yeah, I can help." And Richard goes, "Yeah." So I finagled these 2 guys, one who I didn't really know at all, which was Kurt. And they're huffing and puffing and trying to bring this dresser, this old-fashioned dresser, down the stairs. And putting it in my little van that I was taking back home. And I didn't remember, it was Renee who reminded me that it was Kurt who helped me with that. I didn't even remember Kurt helping me, and I didn't even know who this guy was. So I thought it was really sweet that he helped me out, even though he didn't hardly know me. So that's my Kurt story.
Oh, thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. Again, way to be the church. Way to be the church, Kurt. And we're so glad that he connected with you, Phyllis, and that you have gathered with our community. And one day we'll all be back together in the building where we can actually do it in a physical way. So I love it. Thank you so much. There's one more here from Janice, the other Janice, Huber, Jan.
Who never goes by Janice, except her mother used to call her that when she was in trouble. During the time that we had the Sudanese guys, the Lost Boys that we were resettling, one of the jobs that I was doing was trying to help them get clothing, and it was very difficult to find things to fit them. And I had actually, given up on resale stores and had taken 3 of them to a big and tall men's shop in hopes of finding something that would fit these guys. And I was totally frustrated and finding nothing, and the salesperson was finding nothing. And I heard sort of giggling behind me and turned around, and 3 of the guys had buttoned themselves into one shirt. Because in this country, when you're big and tall, you're big and tall. And these guys were like 6'6" snakes on their tails, so skinny.
I love it. I love it. Oh my
You
goodness.
didn't buy the shirt.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fair. You didn't want them to have to walk around together. And actually, Mark Washington, keep holding that up. So speaking of the Sudanese ministry and all those fantastic brothers and sisters in Christ that we've all come to know, Mom Pam, as the guys call her, Pam Hubbard, just wrote a book and released it called No Crocodiles in Lake Michigan, which was a concern that our Sudanese friends had with that big body of water. And so you can, if you want to get the book, you can certainly reach out to me. I can get you in contact with Pam, but she wrote a book and about that time and large parts about the ministry of the church in there. But it was, and we still have some of the Sudanese families with us and are grateful for that. So that's awesome. I just saw that Dale put in the chat about Tirza having a naked Barbie doll that she was playing with one day, and that Desiree asked her, "What are you doing?" And Tirza replied, "This is Pastor Barbie." Before she left home for college, Tirza had only ever had a female pastor, Pastor Deb, and then Pastor Mandy. That is a crazy thing. Like, we're so used to it, we don't think about it, right? But that is a crazy thing in Christianity, but especially in evangelical Christianity, that we have kids in our church, and many of them who've only known female pastors. So thanks be to God for the church's commitment to those of us who are her women in ministry. So I'm grateful for that. Did I get everybody with their stories? I think so. I feel like we could just keep telling stories all day, but I'm not going to make you do that, especially because some of you might need to get out and like clear off your car. Maddie too. Yeah, Maddie too. That's fun. Book's $10. The book is $10. So, hey, we could share stories all day, and it is wonderful. And I hope that you'll keep sharing stories and memories with one another, with other people from the church that might not been able to be here today. Just share some of these stories with them. And I'm so grateful for these memories. It's really wonderful to celebrate the past. But we also have the opportunity to look towards the future. And as I was putting the video of the history of the church, a brief history of the church together, I was struck by the fact that we as Grace ourselves are in a bit of a transition moment that's probably going to be marked in some history video in the future about a pandemic and doing things differently. And it'll probably be this little byline or a one sentence, right? But it is really true that while it might not be because our church was destroyed by a fire, or because we have to, merge 2 congregations, but we're in the midst of a time where we need to be changing and adjusting so that not only we benefit from the gift of grace, God's unmerited favor us as a church, but also for the church in the future. One of the things that we said at the council meeting, we had our council orientation yesterday, is that we need to make decisions as a church for the disenfranchised future, not just for us. We don't make decisions just for us. We make decisions for those who will yet one day be at a church on our corner. And so we give thanks to God for that. Don't stress out. I didn't forget the baby pictures. We're going to do that now. We're going to end with that. And I'm going to share my screen again. And hey, Bethany, are you able to go through slowly and tell us who's who? Let me share my screen. And what we want you to do is keep track of the ones that you got right. Girl Scout honor here. And at the end, we're going to see who got the most of these baby pictures right. So let me see if I'm going to share my screen. 1 second.
Fun to see them.
All right, so we've got the baby pictures here. And Bethany, can you tell us who's who?
Yes, number one. And please, if any of these are wrong, we got a whole bunch in a very short period of time. So raise your hand or, shout or something if they are in fact wrong. Number one is Donna Maska. Number two is Patty Mueller. Number three is Matt Pike. Number four is Kim Zimmerman. Number five is Steve Dawson. Number six is Janice Finney. Number seven is Peyton Mueller. Number 8 is Lucy Boyd. 9 is Maddie Zimmerman. Number 10 is Roger Saldana. Number 11 is Joash Feifelman. Number 12 is Denise Hopp. Number 13 is Dora Winchester. Number 14 is Troy Katie. Troy, you look the same. Number 15 is Mule Mueller. Number 16 is Renee Rushley. Number 17 is Megan Katie. Number 18 is Justin Washington. Number 19 is Dale Reed. Amy Washington. Number 21 is Dave Hughesby. Number 22 is Pavel Mueller. Number 23 is Ben Olson. Number 24 is Renoa Saldana. Number 25 is Tao Masters. Number 26 is Sarah Hillebrandt. Number 27 is Nicholas Cady.
Whose actual birthday is today. Nick, your birthday's today, right? Happy birthday, Nick!
Happy birthday! What, wasn't he the one that Milton said was the happiest baby he's ever seen? Yes. We're halfway through. Number 28 is Rita Ruby. Number 29. Number 30 is Bertucan Mueller. Number 31 is Ron Roland. 32 is Jordan Doles. 33 is Mary Jane Dawson. 35 is Heather, 34, thank you. My eyes are getting crazy. 34 is Heather Katie. 35 is Rana Hughesby. 36 is Bonnie Feifelman. 37, oh, that's cute. I didn't see that one before, is Rosie Boyd. Those lips. 38 is Kurt Rushley. 39 is Jordan Feifelman. 40 is Lori Bailey. 41 is Ian Washington. 2 Boyd. 43 is Metzley Doles. 44 is Brian Masters. 45 is Anne Rowland. 46 is James Hopp. 47 is Samantha Washington. 48 is Tom Zimmerman. 49, Marv Bailey. 50, Mark Washington. 51 is Noah Feifelman. 52 is Desiree Reed. 53 is John Boyd. I don't recognize him without the bow tie. 54 is Mandy Olson. 55 is Pete Mueller. And 56 is Paul Denai, again without the bow tie.
That's awesome. That is fantastic and so fun. Let me open this screen up a little more so I can see you all. I would have totally guessed the Mueller kids as opposite of what they were. That's crazy. Who's 42?
Which Mueller kids?
Who? Birta Khan and Mule. I would have thought the first one was
Okay.
Birdie and the
Yeah,
last.
so we did the fake out with them because we got a picture of Mule wearing a little girl's sweater. And so we put that in intentionally to throw people off track, given that, otherwise they're rather recognizable.
It worked. It worked. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we can, we'll get the list out to you so you've got that. So here's, and Bethany, Bethany's answering some of the questions in the chat of who's who, but we'll definitely share the link with everything. I think that we can do that. I'm saying that on behalf of the Saldana family, but I think that we could, okay, thank you. I'm like, one of the two of them will be able to do that. Hey, I did share at some point the link to, I think I did, the link to the history video. It's on our YouTube channel. So if you didn't get to see that, you can go and watch it there. If you want to pause it so you can see some of the pictures and look a little closer at some of those pictures, you can do that there. So here's the question. Who got 20 or more correct? Yeah, me either. How about 15 or more?
Ooh.
Dora, 15 or more? How many?
And Patty too.
20.
20? And how many, Patty?
18.
Does anyone have more than 20? 20 going once, going twice.
All right, go Dora.
Dora, oh my goodness. I hope you don't faint from joy.
I can't believe it. But can I just comment? It's like I didn't get the answers for 2, and I had to make the note cute next to 2 numbers, and those 2 numbers were Marv Bailey.
Oh,
and Mandy Olson, so cute.
I was such a fat baby, you guys. The joke in my family, and I still hear it today from like aunts and uncles and cousins. Well, not cousins, I'm the oldest, but aunts and uncles, grandparents, was that if they laid me on my side and pushed me, I would just keep on rolling because I was so chubby. So yeah.
Cheeks.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. I know the cheeks. What can I say? They still are here. So, and I know I love that cracks me up. John Boyd had a nice double chin going on there. Oh, John, we love you. You guys, this has been so much fun. Thank you for being part of Grace and for joining us doing this. We'll take the recording and put it up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to show any other people parts of it, you can do that. But thank you so much for connecting with us. Oh my gosh, they did that to me. They watered down my formula for a while. The doctor was like, "Stop! What are you feeding this child?" It happens. We grow up okay. Fat babies turn out okay. But you guys, thank you so much. We love you. I love you. And next Sunday we will gather for an all-church communion service. So I look forward to. Oh, there's John Boyd. John, we loved the baby picture.
John just got back from a trip, so that's why we've been kind of hovering for all this, but it's nice to see everybody.
And I thought that Ann Boyd and I could have been baby sisters at the two pictures. With our
totally.
Ann Boyd was the very cute one too, but I knew it, so I didn't have to put the cute note next to it. But yes, very cute.
And Patty or Pete?
Yeah, I just wanted to show that some things haven't changed. This is Pete at about age 20. And I want you to notice the hairstyle he has then. No, 2022? Maybe, early 20s. The hair didn't change from the baby picture to this one.
So what he has
Just
today.
we all laughed. It has changed since then, but
Oh my goodness.
we laughed on the search for pictures.
Too much fun. You guys, blessings to you. Be careful out there. I think it's just starting to stop snowing. So we got a lot of snow out there. So be careful in that and stay warm. Enjoy your week, and many blessings. May this be one of our fond memories that we have together. Peace to you all.